All righty. Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Happy hump day. Good evening. My name is Casey Halpern, and I'm thrilled to be joined by my good friend, founder of Badlands, the number one subscription Jets podcast, Joe Caporoso. Joe, it's great to see you. How we
It's
feeling?
great. It's great to be back. Felt better about our Jets, but feel good overall. I mean, we're in our comfort zone. We're talking tank or no tank, draft, free agency, uh, cryptic potential returns of 40-year-old quarterbacks, 2.5 months off major surgery. It's the Jets. There's always something going on.
It really feels like we are just in the prime Jet season, heading into the off season, not playing meaningful football in December, just all the buzz around the Jets for some reasons due to a 40-year-old quarterback who was injured his Achilles 79 days ago. But hey, we're heading for our crown of off-season champs once again. We are on the right path. So all is right. The circle is complete, and now I guess, start over again.
It's time is a flat circle. We've talked about this a lot as Jet fans, and it's a little bit different this offseason in some ways. We don't have to talk about the offseason yet, to be fair. There are 6 games left. It's okay to peek a little bit ahead, but are you not riveted by Ritter, Boyle, the NFL on Fox? I'm sorry, the NFL on Fox. 1 p.m. kickoff. Finally, the Jets are playing a 1 p.m. game. Finally, it's like hasn't happened at all this year.
It's
A
must-see
beautiful
TV.
MetLife Stadium. Must-see TV. That's it.
And the highlight of it is going to be the Profit Exchange Badlands Chitty Cheesesteaks tailgate that takes place prior in the parking lot. So
I'm very excited.
with that.
It's going to be good to hang out in person. We haven't got to do too much of it since our watch party earlier this year, and since I'm hanging in Hoboken we had a few months back. So it's great to get everybody out, and you need people to commiserate with and eat with and gamble with and drink with, and that's what I'm looking forward to the most. As excited as I am to watch Timmy B dice it up against Arthur Smith and the Falcons in what should be the lowest scoring, ugliest, weirdest game of the week, I would guess, without question. I'm much more excited for the old parking lot before.
It's going to be a grand old time. Tim is going to boil, as the kids like to say. And as you said, I'm excited to commiserate with the fellow Badlands community members, Profit users, Chitty lovers. It's going to be a great day. I watched the Black Friday game in an empty bar with 4 of my friends, and we were all basically, it was very depressing in there. It was dark. It was empty. It got dark outside very quickly. Not a great service staff. They weren't very hospitable, so that didn't help. And then the Hail Mary before half was just a straw that broke the camel's back. But before we dive into the Profit Exchange Week 13 markets, I want to just start with a couple questions I had for you that my friends in my Jets chat actually kind of got me thinking about. And I know you actually touched on it last night on the War Room pod with Jason and Connor, which was excellent, by the way. Have you ever just thought about this in the sense that where would you rank Joe Douglas amongst the Jets GMs in the past 15 years? Because it's crazy that he might be number 2, the next to Tannenbaum, and then it's just McCagnon and Nitzik behind them.
Yeah, I mean, if I think about it in my conscious lifetime of following the team, which probably starts around the misery of 96 with Kotite, I would say Kotite was the worst. Idzik was the second worst. I think then after that, it's like I'd like to. You'd say, I would still put McCagnon in the third to worst slot, and then it's probably Douglas. Like Tannenbaum is unquestionably better than him. Parcells is unquestionably better than him, and as bad as he was at times, to date, Bradway was better than him because they made the playoffs when he was the GM and they had a winning season, and that hasn't been accomplished yet by Douglas. I mean, Douglas is 30 plus games under 500. He's approaching historic territory of most games GM'd without a playoff appearance. Someone in the Discord did look up some of the stats we were talking about. You're talking about Millen and Jason Licht and Bruce Allen and some unique things. And Licht was able to hold on and get to the Brady years, but it's some rarefied air. So he's better than Idzik. He's better than Kotite. I'd say he's a touch better than McCagnon, although McCagnon had a winning season, which Douglas hasn't had yet. it's time. I mean, it's time to win. I mean, next year they're not going to finish this season with a winning record. Obviously, next season, regardless of what happens, I think it's beyond fair if everyone's back to be like, if you guys don't make the playoffs, everybody's fired. Period. And if it looks like you're 4-7 again, everyone's fired in the middle of the season. So we'll see. What's frustrating about this season, you put the Rodgers hardness aside, is what's really plaguing this team are things that everyone talked about potentially plaguing them all summer. The lack of depth on the offensive line, the lack of depth in receiver, and no backup quarterback. And those have been the three things that have really killed them, along with the concerns about the offensive coaching hires, which, it's an abysmal offensive staff. So that's a hard thing to overcome with their current talent infrastructure. And it makes for a very hard thing to watch. I do think, Connor had a good point yesterday in that there is a little recency bias here. They're probably not quite as bad as we've seen the last 4 games, just like they aren't as good as they were against the Chiefs and the Eagles and the Broncos, who actually have turned out to be a pretty good team now. The truth lies somewhere in the middle, which is why I think for those hoping the Jets are going to go 4-13, like, you probably be disappointed. They'll probably win a game or two down the stretch, including maybe this game against Atlanta, because they'll have a game or two where their defense is on it and they break through a couple plays. It's not going to happen every week. It's not going to happen more than it doesn't happen, but I don't think they're going to close the year losing 10 straight games. I think they'll win a couple games at some point. I'm not saying they're going 8-9 or 9-8. I still think it's probably like 6-11 at this point, which is going to have you picking like 10th or 12th probably.
Yeah, we're going to be out of the top 10 if I do guess. I think they'll win 2 more games, as you said, which doesn't bode well for my over 6.5 live in-season bet I took after they beat the Eagles, which I thought was going to kind of be a lock. And I was like perplexed that was the line, but hey, looks like I'm going to get beat by the bookmaker again. But the reason I asked you that is because I was actually infuriated by one of my good friends who's a Jets fan. He had the audacity to say John Idzik is better than Joe Douglas. I said, look, I'm not a Joe Douglas fan, but you got to pump the brakes here. This is a guy that took 14 draft picks in 1 year, and I think one played more than 2 seasons with the Jets. He took 2 wide receivers in the 4th round that had a career combined 1 reception for 7 yards. Like, I went down
stats you almost can't believe. Stats you almost can't believe.
I went down a rabbit hole, and like the drafts from like 2014 to honestly 2022 are unfathomable, like how bad they are and how little talent came out of there.
It shouldn't be this hard on day 2 and day 3 to find contributors. Find your version of Tank Dell. Find your version of Reed on the Packers. Find guys who would come in and like be a number 2 or number 3 receiver. Like, that's what good teams do. And the Jets just haven't been able to do that consistently. There's been a couple breakthroughs, like on day 3, day 2, you got Michael Carter in the slot. Obviously, you're excited about what you've gotten so far from Joe Tippmann and Breece Hall in the 2nd round, but you have to do it more often than not. And right now, the middle class and the depth isn't there on offense. Defensively, you feel pretty good about where everything sits. Offensively, it's ugly, man. And they just had a lot of total misses, not even like partial contact, like
whiffs.
Lazard, Cobb, Hardman are like just 3 huge whiffs. And that's hard to overcome. And Cook, you even have to put in that bucket now too. So much time has passed. Like, even if he closes the year strong, like, he's going to run for 250 yards and no touchdowns for what he's being paid. Like, that's ugly hours.
Bad allocation of money. I mean, it's just been constant whiffs in the middle rounds. The Ardarius Stewarts and Chad Hansen skilled players of the world ain't going to cut in today's NFL.
Man, everyone in the moment was like, take Godwin, take Godwin, take Godwin. And they still didn't take Godwin. And here we are. I was on Twitter as that pick was being made, and everyone on Jets Twitter was telling them to take Godwin, and they took Stewart.
It's truly remarkable. Hypothetically, let's say they do kind of win just one more game down the stretch. It seems like, by all accounts, the front office, the coaching staff is safe. I don't really believe that. I know that's what they're saying now, but I feel like if they, let's say, win one more game this season, finish 5-12, I mean, I feel like Woody might just kind of flip a switch. He's been known to just surprise some people. I know Aaron is really the owner of the team, so it would have to come from him, but I don't
Nothing's
know.
out of the question. The Jets are never a normal bad team. So I can't predict how these final 6 games are going to go. A normal bad team will probably go 2-4 down the stretch, and you kind of be status quo. This team may end up starting Rodgers for a game or two, which I think would be utterly insane at this point. Woody is not really an in-season firing guy, but could he surprise everybody and make a big splash? It's not the most crazy thing in the world. I think, unfortunately, what's going to happen with this team is probably like ultimately what fans don't want to hear is that probably Rodgers, Saleh, Douglas, and Hackett are all going to be back. Maybe Hackett's back in a different capacity as like an assistant and they get a different play caller, but I kind of feel like Douglas and Saleh are going to be back. And some of that has to do with Rodgers, probably. Some of that has to do with Woody and how all in he went on this vision. It's also, they're not going to half measure again, right? Like they did to start off this drought where they just fire the head coach and not the GM. And then the head coach has to come in with a lame duck GM or vice versa. So I think both these guys are going to get another year, even though they haven't really earned it from a performance perspective. And you question the ceiling with them leading it. But if Rodgers is healthy and a couple other guys are healthy and they make a couple strategic additions and they're going to be desperately aggressive because the entire world knows they're going to make the playoffs, so you're fired. Maybe you stitch together a version of the 2015 season that you win 12 games instead of 10 games and it ends a little better.
Guess that's the best case scenario. And look, I like Robert Saleh person. Like I want him to work out, but I happen to find some of his in-game management decisions very perplexing, especially on like 4th downs. Sometimes the use of the clock. And the penalties are just a massive concern because they are all just from undisciplined like reactions. That's what it feels like. And I don't understand why that continues to happen. And I know he just benched Alan Lazard, and it seems like there's no accountability by the players based on what he said as well, which is so kind of takes 2 to tango, but we'll leave it at that. But before we dive into the markets, I want to discuss Aaron Rodgers. He practiced today for the first time since tearing his Achilles. They activated him for the 21-day window. I am pretty firm in my stance that he, by absolutely no means, should step on the football field this season. Like, I think that would be one of the dumbest things the Jets would do in the past few years, if you want me to be honest. Like, I understand why fans want to see him, but like, I think you got to just pump the brakes here and kind of just think a little longer term, just like what's better for next year. That's where the focus should be. And I wouldn't sacrifice maybe like another 4 plays of like euphoria for him to go out there and, God forbid, get re-injured. I just don't think the reward outweighs the significant risk here.
I couldn't agree more. It's one thing if they're 6-5 right now or 7-4, and they're kind of just hanging on with mediocre quarterback play. To bring him back into this situation, even if you're getting some linemen back like Schweitzer and Becton and McGovern, the risk reward just isn't there. I just don't see it at his age with this recovery timeline, with the teams they're playing late in the season, outside, cold, good defenses. I get keeping the hope alive, and maybe it adds a little juice to the team that he's at practice and he's close. Maybe those things can be real sometimes.
Yep.
I just, as a Jet fan, I just don't see it. I just don't see it. Have him be healthy for next year. That's what matters. Like, right? Like, be healthy for next year. So I don't know what the hell they're going to do with quarterback these last 6 games. My guess is Boyle's going to be pretty bad again, and they'll try Simeon at some point, and will be a standard Jets year where 4 different quarterbacks start. But we'll see. I mean, Boyle, Dak, Simeon, it's all the same. The Jets failed, and there's no getting out of that failure now with how they handled backup quarterback. They have the worst active depth chart in the league. And this Rodgers thing will float for a few weeks. They'll milk it as long as they can, but I still ultimately don't expect him to play this year. I just feel like objectively that'd be insane.
It would be complete malpractice and negligence on their part. I know he's going to try and push the play, but I really just think it's more a motivational tactic for the rest of the team and just have his presence felt, which is all fine and good. Let him continue rehab, do whatever he's doing in practice. Just don't put him in a game. It's just unnecessary. Speaking of quarterbacks and Zach Wilson, I think there's some real potential. We get some teacher and disciple on December 28th. Joe Flacco, Zach Wilson. Matchup on Thursday Night Football.
I think we're definitely going to play against Flacco. I've been saying that for a long time. Of course, there'll be a Flacco game. I don't think they're going to play Wilson again. I think the organization is finally done. I don't think, no matter how bad Boyle and Simeon are, or even Rodgers having one leg, like, they're not going to play Wilson again. I think he's played his last snap as a Jet. I said that last year after our profit watch party against the Jaguars, and I've been proven wrong. But I think they're done with him. And I don't think you'll see him play another snap for the Jets ever again.
I have to kind of just see it to believe it, because
Yes.
as you said, we both said it last year, and we were proven wrong. One last thing before we talk about some other Week 13 matchups we like and some markets we'll have for the Sunday tailgate. One thing that has kind of flown under the radar and hasn't been discussed yet, and it is a very real possibility, is the fact that Christopher Johnson retakes the reins in 13 months.
I haven't thought about that. That has bigger implications than even our Jets.
Yeah.
I got to take it 1 year at a time. 1 year at a time.
It was a scary thought, though, for a second. I was like, oh, no.
We had some years with Chris at the helm, and it wasn't pretty. I mean, not that Woody's years have been pretty, but at least there has been years where Woody has been the owner when they've won. It's been a very, very long time, but it has happened. I mean, maybe a good time just to sell the team. I don't know. Like, why not? Get it out there. Cut I could say cut your losses, but they've made so much money. They're not cutting their losses in any meaningful way. But yeah, man, it's these are dark days. But I don't think it's quite as bad as we're all making it out to be. It feels that way coming off losing like that to Buffalo, Miami. It will feel maybe a little better in the next few weeks. Maybe a little better. And then especially as you get more of that Rodgers footage, and people will be like, all right, he's playing next year. And that's cool. And that's better than a lot of other teams will be dealing with for next year.
And then we'll be off-season champs again, baby. Just finish, just get a little some sort of positivity and momentum down the stretch. We know the season's a lost cause, but hopefully that event that would cause Woody to go away doesn't happen. So let's not think about that. All right, let's jump into the Thursday Night Football markets. We got Seahawks versus the Cowboys on Thursday Night Football. Currently, the Seahawks are plus 8.5, plus 104 on Profit Exchange. Cowboys minus 8.5, minus 111. Who you got tomorrow night?
Cowboys. I think the Seahawks have kind of stunk this year. I think Geno, our boy, while I'm rooting for him, I think he's regressed to the mean pretty harshly this year. I have no reason to think Seattle's going into Dallas and winning this game. They just have not looked the part this year, and their schedule is brutal here, and they have a real chance of being on the outside looking in when it comes to the playoffs. So I would take Dallas I think Dallas will win this game by like 10 or 12 points pretty comfortably. It'll be an entertaining game. Dallas usually is involved in entertaining games this year. I just don't think I think Seattle feels like an 8-9 team this year, and I don't think they're going to win this one.
Yep. I agree with you. I like Dallas tomorrow. I just think Seattle's banged up. Geno's hurt. Obviously, he's not having as great of a year as last year. I think no Kenneth Walker is definitely a bit of a blow to them. And their defense just, quite frankly, has been really, really mediocre, to be nice. We'll see our old friend Blitz boy Jamal and Leonard Williams, who they, for some reason, traded a second-round pick, which is going to prove very costly once they don't make the playoffs because, as you said, they have a very hard schedule coming up. But I would like to see the Cowboys win. I'd especially like to see Dak Prescott ball out. I took him 40-1 to win MVP 2 weeks ago, so I'm hopeful that we still see that upward ascension by him.
Not bad. Not a bad bet. I like it.
We need to see a strong showing tomorrow night, though.
Yes, national TV.
National television. We have 11 props up for Thursday Night Football. We're going to have a ton more up for this Sunday. And any Profit Exchange user who requests better odds on any of our NFL Week 13 props can receive a bonus up to $100. And we're going to add 2 Bet with Badlands props for this Sunday's game against the Falcons. We will be having Drake London versus Garrett Wilson receiving yards, a battle of the 2022 NFL marquee draft wide receivers from that draft.
A battle of get us better quarterbacks, please.
Seriously, 2 guys who would literally be all pros if they had competent people throwing the football.
Yes.
and Brees Hall anytime touchdown. I don't know what the odds are quite yet, but I like Brees to score on Sunday for sure.
He's due. He'll get another one.
He is due. I mean, I know they're bereft of offense, but he is due. And I feel like he's going to take those solid comments to heart and have a big game.
Beautiful. I'm rooting for him, man.
So be on the lookout for that, everyone out there listening and watching. And we'll be betting that at the tailgate. But before I let you go, who's one underdog that you're eyeing this week outside of Jets-Falcons game that you think will not only cover, but win outright?
I mean, the last I saw, aren't the Eagles underdogs to the Niners?
I'll pull it up right now. The Eagles are currently +2.5 underdogs at +104 and +134 on the money line on Profit Exchange.
I'll be taking the Eagles money line. They shouldn't be underdogs to anyone right now. I know they lost to Zach Wilson. I know they haven't looked great week to week, but I'm taking them. Anytime I'm getting a chance to get them as an underdog, that's who I'm going with.
I don't love it. I took the 49ers earlier.
That's all right. Understandable. We can fight about it more in the parking lot.
I did take over +1 though, so I guess
okay.
Actually, I don't think you could be happy, but I could push.
There we go. We'll see. That's the game of the day. Jets Falcons aside, of course.
I mean, Jets Falcons is a beautiful, beautiful appetizer to Sunday's entree. So,
amen.
You can't get enough of Tim Boyle versus Desmond Ridder, the Badlands, the Profit Exchange, and Chitty Cruz at the Big Air Conditioner on Sunday, followed by probably the two best teams in the NFC. So, good appetizer, little finger food for all the folks at home. Before I let you go, who do you think, as we stand here right now on November 29th, which is crazy, that December is in less than 36 hours, who do you think will be in the Super Bowl?
Boring answer. Chalk. Chiefs-Eagles rematch. Eagles will still have the 1 seed. I don't know what NFC team is going in their divisional round and beating them. And Kyle Shanahan loves losing playoff games. So I do think we'll get that Niners-Eagles rematch. I think they are the two best teams still in the NFC. AFC, who else would you pick besides the Chiefs? The Bills aren't going to make the playoffs. There's no Burrow. The Steelers stink, but they're going to make the playoffs. The Browns stink, but they're probably going to make the playoffs. The Dolphins haven't beat anybody good this year. Are they going into Kansas City and winning in the playoffs? I don't know. Like Jacksonville had that chance last year, and they couldn't beat them with a hobbled Mahomes. I just don't know what other team you're picking unless Mahomes gets banged up again. I know that's not a fun and exciting answer, but those are the two best teams still at this point. And I haven't seen any reason to believe otherwise.
I don't blame you. I think as we stand right now, I think it's going to be Ravens, 49ers. So a little different, but I think those will be the final four: the Chiefs, Ravens, Eagles, and 49ers. So
fair.
A lot to unfold, but down the stretch we go.
Amen.
Crazy. It's too bad the Jets won't be really participating, but
never.
Maybe next year.
Maybe. Maybe for the 13th year in a row.
It's crazy. It really is. Before we go, I just want to call out again. We will be co-hosting a tailgate on Sunday for all you sick, twisted individuals that are going to go out to the Big Air Conditioner. We'll be in lot E23, having a grand old time.
This is what we look like. You'll recognize us when you see us there.
This is us. We're not fake people.
I'm 6'5" in person. Casey's 5'10", 6'1".
Yeah, about 5'10". On a good day.
All right.
That's what my hinge says. So, go by
That's
that.
it.
We're going to have a great day. Eating, drinking, betting with Badlands on Profit Exchange, getting the best odds in New Jersey. Can't ask for much more. Weather looks good, so excited to hang with the crew. We're going to have props up. Appreciate you doing this. Had a blast getting the chat. What do you have to plug before we go?
Patreon.com/BadlandsTOJ. New content every single day. I'm going to take the audio of this and even put it on the feed. We got a draft season episode tomorrow. We got Buck the Trend. We got an interview with Jason Fitzgerald from Over the Cap. We got Connor and I ranting and rambling for 40 minutes. We got the other guys featuring Chris Mano this week. We're loaded. We got stuff every day. So patreon.com/BadlandsTOJ. Come sign up. Come join the Discord. Great place to commiserate and listen to content every day.
It's nonstop entertainment. It's the best $10 you could spend on content a month. I promise you that.
Beautiful.
You won't be disappointed. All right, Joe, I'll see you in 96 hours. And everyone out there listening, meet us in lot E23. We're going to have a great day. Let's get after it. Thank you, Joe.
Thank you.